and I'm really sorry. After 13 years of making Wheeler Dealers, I'm now going to be leaving the show.
Some partnerships on TV just feel right, so perfect, so authentic, that you can't imagine them ever breaking up. For 13 years, the duo of Mike Brewer and E.T. China on Wheeler Dealers was exactly that. You had Mike, the charismatic car trader, who could spot a bargain from a mile away, and E.T., the towering mechanical genius, who could resurrect any car that rolled into his workshop. They weren't just a hit, they were a global phenomenon. Not because of fake drama or fiery arguments, but because of a genuine, shared passion for cars. Fans didn't just watch the show, they learned from it, trusted it, and felt a real connection to the two guys at its heart. Then, on March 21, 2017, the engine seized. In a quiet video on his YouTube channel, E.T. China announced he was leaving the show he'd helped turn into a titan. The official reason was creative differences, a bland, corporate phrase that explained nothing and satisfied no one. For years, rumors swirled about a bitter feud between the hosts, a classic tale of fame and money tearing a friendship apart. But the truth was far more complex and, in a way, more heartbreaking. This wasn't about a broken friendship, it was a battle for the very soul of the show. For years, E.T. China's exit from Wheeler Dealers was pinned on a falling out with his co-host, Mike Brewer. But that story of creative differences never felt right to the fans. Now, the real story has emerged, and it isn't about two friends at war, it's about one man's stand against corporate greed. E.T. China was faced with a choice: compromise his integrity or walk away from the show he loved. This is the story of how a TV network, chasing a faster, flashier, and cheaper show, forced a master craftsman to choose between his principles and his paycheck. And at 54, E.T. has finally revealed what really went down behind those workshop doors. To get why E.T.'s departure was such a gut punch, you have to remember what made Wheeler Dealers so special. When the show first aired in the UK back in 2003, the idea was refreshingly simple. Creators Daniel Allam and Michael Wood wanted to make a car show that was as educational as it was fun. Mike Brewer, the energetic dealer, finds a tired classic car on a budget. He hands it over to his mechanical partner, E.T. China, who meticulously restores it, explaining every single step. Finally, Mike sells the car, hopefully for a profit. On a TV world obsessed with staged drama, Wheeler Dealers was an oasis of authenticity. There were no screaming matches or fake deadlines. The drama came from a rusted bolt, a tricky electrical problem, or the pure satisfaction of hearing an engine roar back to life. Mike Brewer himself said the goal was always to teach the audience, to share their expertise with the viewers at home, and E.T. China was the heart of that mission. At 6'7", he was a gentle giant whose calm, patient approach was the perfect foil to Mike's high-energy salesmanship. E.T. wasn't just a presenter, he was a teacher. He could take a bafflingly complex repair and break it down into simple steps that made you feel empowered. Fans always said it spoke to them like a friend in the garage, making them feel smarter with every episode. He never talked down to his audience. He treated them like fellow gearheads, sharing in the simple joy of a job done right. The show was built on those greasy, painstaking middle parts that other shows would have left on the cutting room floor. The chemistry between Mike and E.T. was real. It was a partnership built on respect. Mike handled the business, the haggling, and the history. E.T. was the undisputed king of the workshop. Their banter was genuine, their teamwork seamless. For 13 seasons, they were the perfect team. They started in a small UK workshop, but their passion went global, eventually reaching an estimated 200 million people. They hosted stages at massive events like SEMA in Las Vegas, greeted by thousands of screaming fans. The big move to America for Season 12, setting up shop in Huntington Beach, California, was meant to be the next great chapter. But this move also brought a massive shift behind the scenes. The show was now being made for a different market, under the control of a new production company, Discovery's Velocity Channel. And while the show was hitting its peak popularity, the very foundation of its success was starting to crack. The simple, honest formula was about to collide with a corporate philosophy that valued something else entirely. The golden era was, unknowingly, coming to an end. The move to America should have been a dream, giving the team access to a whole new world of iconic American cars. But it also introduced a new layer of corporate control that would prove fatal to the show's identity. The US network, Velocity, was chasing an affluent male viewer. Their focus wasn't on the nuts and bolts of a DIY project, but on the aspirational lifestyle that came with high-end cars. The slow, educational pace that defined E.T.'s work was now seen as a roadblock. Network execs wanted faster edits, more flash, and less talking. The changes started small. Longtime fans noticed E.T.'s detailed workshop segments, the heart of the show, were getting shorter. A 10-minute deep dive on an engine rebuild was now a 30-second montage with a rock soundtrack. Complex fixes were suddenly happening off camera because there just wasn't time in the new, tighter format. Behind the scenes, the pressure was on. The production schedule was relentless, demanding more cars, flipped faster, to feed the network's content machine. For E.T., this wasn't just a simple format change. It was a betrayal of the show's core promise. He had built his name on mechanical transparency. He believed in showing the process, warts and all, because that's where the real satisfaction was. Now, he was being asked to cut corners, to simplify, to perform for the camera in a way that felt dishonest. The show he had helped create was being pushed to become just another reality car show, the very thing it had always stood against. E.T. fought back, trying to protect the educational soul of wheeler dealers, but the gap between his values and the network's goals was becoming impossible to bridge. The tension wasn't between Mike and E.T., as so many fans assumed. Mike, always the pragmatist, understood the TV business. He was more willing to compromise to keep the show they'd built on the air. It created a professional split, not a personal one. E.T. wasn't fighting Mike, he was fighting a corporate machine that saw his passion as a product to be packaged and sold. He was becoming a passenger on a ship he'd helped build, and its new destination was somewhere slicker, faster, and ultimately soulless. Fan forums lit up with discussions about the show not feeling the same. The audience could sense the change, even if they didn't know the cause. The story of a feud was easy and dramatic, but the reality was a slow, corporate erosion of everything that made the show great. E.T. China was facing an impossible choice: cash the checks and preside over a hollowed-out version of his show, or take a stand for the principles that had defined his entire career. The final straw came when the producers delivered an ultimatum. The future of wheeler dealers, they said, would involve dramatically cutting back the workshop content. It wasn't a suggestion. It was the new formula. For the network, it was a business decision to make production cheaper and faster. For E.T., it was an attack on his integrity. He was being asked to budget to do a quick, lazy, or incomplete job, and that was a line he would not cross. On March 21, 2017, E.T. China sat in his own garage, looked into a camera, and calmly explained his decision. In a video that was polite and completely free of anger, he laid out the truth. He said, "Sadly, the new show's producers have decided to reduce the detail and in-depth coverage of my fixes in the workshop. This new direction is not something I am comfortable with, as I feel the corners I was being asked to cut would have compromised the quality of my work and would erode my integrity as well as that of the show." He wasn't blaming his co-host, he was simply stating that he had to choose between his values and his job, and he chose his values. The reaction was a tidal wave. The video exploded online. Fans were heartbroken but also felt vindicated. They finally had confirmation of what they'd long suspected. The show had changed for the worse. An overwhelming flood of support for E.T. poured in, with thousands of comments praising his integrity and thanking him for protecting the honesty they loved. But this support had a dark side. A torrent of anger was aimed squarely at Mike Brewer. Even though E.T. had been careful not to blame him, many fans saw Mike, who stayed with the show, as a sellout. Social media turned ugly. Mike and his family received hate mail and even death threats. The backlash was so vicious that Mike had to publicly defend himself, saying he was gutted by E.T.'s decision and that the network was responsible for the changes. E.T. even posted a follow-up video, begging fans not to blame Mike, reiterating that this was about business, not a personal feud. But the narrative of a bitter rivalry was just too dramatic to die. The truth is that their friendship was undeniably fractured by the professional split, but it wasn't the cause of it. Both men have since said there was no huge personal blow-up. Mike admitted he was hurt, feeling that E.T. had used the show's platform to build his own brand before walking away. He also revealed that they haven't spoken in years, a sad end to an iconic partnership. The core of the conflict was never about two friends fighting. It was about one man refusing to compromise his standards in the face of corporate pressure. E.T. didn't leave because he wanted to. He left because he felt he had to. EDD China's departure left a massive hole in wheeler dealers. The show carried on, first with the talented Aunt Anstead, and later with Mark Elvis Priestley. Both were skilled mechanics, but for a huge part of the audience, the magic was gone. The shadow of E.T. loomed. Largette would have done it better became a common refrain in comment sections. It wasn't really a knock on the new hosts. It was a testament to the deep connection fans had with E.T.'s unique style of craftsmanship. The show survived, but for many, its soul had left with him. While Mike Brewer weathered the storm and kept the Wheeler Dealers brand going, E.T. China started a new chapter, entirely on his own terms. He didn't just fade away. He doubled down on the very thing the network tried to kill: pure, unfiltered mechanics. He launched his own YouTube series, first with Garage Revival and later Workshop Diaries. Gone with the producers, the tight schedules, and the fake drama. What was left was the pure essence of what fans had always loved: his tools, and a car that needed fixing. His new shows were the exact opposite of where Wheeler Dealers was heading. The episodes were long, detailed, and methodical. He took his time, explaining every nut and bolt with the same patience that made him a star. He proved there was still a huge audience for authentic, educational content, an audience that mainstream TV had left behind. His YouTube channel gained a massive following, proving integrity could be more powerful than a primetime TV slot. He's even taken his philosophy a step further. Years ago, he announced a project called Built by Many, with the unique idea of having fans and collaborators join him in the workshop to restore cars like a classic Jaguar E-Type. It's a concept that perfectly captures his belief that cars are meant to be shared, understood, and worked on as a community. He's still inventing, still tinkering with everything from his famous motorized sofa to electric vehicle conversions, and most importantly, still teaching. He has fully embraced his role as a mentor to a new generation of gearheads. At 54, E.T. China is clearly at peace. He has built a new career that is arguably more true to his values than the show that made him a household name. His journey is a powerful lesson. It's about staying true to yourself, even if it means walking away from a global success. He reminded everyone that quality and honesty are principles worth fighting for. The debate over E.T.'s departure and the evolution of Wheeler Dealers still rages on. What's your take? Did E.T. make the right call, or should he have stayed and adapted? And for the long-time fans, does the show still hold the same magic without him? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you believe in creators who stand for passion and integrity, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories like this. The story of E.T. China's exit from Wheeler Dealers isn't just TV drama. It's a landmark moment in car culture. It was never really about a feud with Mike Brewer. Though their friendship was a casualty, the real cause was a clash of worlds: the craftsman's dedication to detail versus the corporation's demand for a faster, cheaper product. E.T. was handed a version of the show that no longer fit his principles, one that chose quick cuts over quality work. He refused to compromise the very integrity that had been his trademark for over a decade. He walked away from a global stage, not out of ego, but out of respect for the audience he had so carefully built, an audience that came to learn, not just to be entertained. In the years since, through his own independent work, he has proven that authenticity still has a massive and loyal following. Mike Brewer has admirably kept the Wheeler Dealers torch burning, but E.T.'s departure marked the end of an era. It was the moment we learned that for E.T. China, some things are more important than being a Wheeler dealer. And for a man who built his career on getting things right, walking away might have been the most honest fix he ever made.